Welcome back everybody. Today we are saving 3 pieces of Australian opal from their jewellery. Thanks for tuning in again everyone. Today we have this piece of jewellery here that I bought from an auction. The reason I bought it is because I was mostly interested in the largest stone of the 3 in the hopes that I could cut it out of the piece of jewellery, take that chip out of the back and then resell the opal, hopefully for profit or at least just to break even. The spare metal I will use to turn into jewellery at a later point. I am using different lighting today, so as you can see there's lots of shadows and things, but hopefully it brightens up this, i.e. me, a bit more, so it's a bit easier to see me, because I've been told in the past that sometimes because my place has a bit of a top-down lighting, so hopefully that brightens things up a bit for you. These opals are bezel set and they have a little shelf on the inside where they're obviously resting on, with the bezel wrapping around the opal. So I will need to cut them out of the bezel setting. I'm not going to play too much footage of me cutting them out because it's just a lot of sawing action. Actually, I'll grab you the saw that I'm going to be using. This thing, jeweler's saw, piercing saw, has a bunch of different names. I'm pretty sure it's called a piercing saw. Someone might have to correct me on that. This is what jewelers use and I'll be cutting them out, so I'll play a little bit of the footage of me cutting them and we'll jump back in so you can see them loose before we then jump across to the cutting wheels. I'll tell you what I think I'm going to do with them, and then we need to jump across to the workshop and onto the cutting wheels to do the actual work. Okay, all 3 have been removed from their settings. This is the larger of the 3. This is the one that I was hoping to get the most out of. It's a white opal, most likely from Cooper PD, has a large chip in the side and the back, and there's a little bit of potch lines in the face running across here. Those aren't cracks, that's just potch lines, so it's naturally healed opal. So it doesn't compromise the stability of the stone. This little red one here, although very thin, it's very pretty, but personally I think I'm gonna reorientate the way the bezel is, the rolled edge of the opal, and I'm gonna go for this side because it just has a bit more kick in my opinion. So I don't know who originally cut this opal, but I don't know what they were thinking in all honesty, because that side compared to that side is a world of difference. And this last one here, what I'm hoping to achieve, it's a nice opal, most likely from Lightning Ridge. It's semi-crystal, I'd say, and it has a nice rolling green across the top. But the trouble is, you can see there's a cloud in the opal. I'm hoping that that cloud will come out, exposing, because it's very clear across this side, but across the bottom left, there's also a chip in it, but across the bottom left there's a bit of like what we call a cotton wool effect. I'm hoping that will come out, but oftentimes it runs straight through the opal. This one might not be as much of a success, but we'll have to see. I'm hoping it comes out. If it does, that's a great win, but we're gonna have to reshape it a bit with these chips that are in the opals here, with especially with this one that compromises it quite a lot, but we'll see. All right. Now you've seen the loose opals, now I've cut them out of the jewellery, and yes, coffee is absolutely necessary. What I need to do first before we start cutting is, I have new Nova wheels. They took a few weeks to arrive, so I've got a new 3000, a new 1200, a new 600 and a new 400 grit Nova wheel. So I will need to install those first and replace the old ones. The old ones just aren't doing it anymore. Let's groove. really exposed how dirty my machine is. Just not good. Not good at all. In fact, I'll use the word shameful. Give you an idea as to how important this replacement was. These are the new wheels. You can see how undulated and how fresh they look. And these are the ones that I've just stopped using. They're bald. They're not. It's a middle-aged man's hairline. There's nothing left in reality. So it's about time that they were replaced. Okay, that's all sorted now. It was a really quick and easy job, so 400, 600, 1200 and 3000 grit wheels. Time for a little test run to make sure they don't fly off the machine. Wait, bit of noise. But we were in business. And in case if you thought I forgot, I of course have the hat.
I've never bought from this manufacturer of lapidary wheels before, so I had to press lightly with the Opal to see how much material was being taken off with each touch. Unfortunately, I'm slightly unimpressed with the 400 grit. It doesn't seem to be taking away as much Opal as my other wheel used to have, but this will just take some getting used to. At this stage, I'm having to remove the chip that's in one end of the Opal. It's important to know that when you're trying to sell Opal, you need to sell a shape that's symmetrical. So whatever I take off the side with the chip, I have to do the same to the other side to make sure that it's going to be a symmetrical shape. The problem I've found is the fact that because it's a very new wheel, it's very coarse, and every time I caught my fingers or nails on it, it hurt quite a lot compared to my old ones because these Nova wheels aren't broken in yet. It's now time to begin reshaping the larger of the three Opals. The chip that's in this one is quite substantial, so it's going to take a lot more grinding on the wheels to be able to achieve a shape that is symmetrical but retaining as much of the material as possible. I felt that this Opal reacted better to the 400 grit wheel, which leads me to believe that the previous one was just a harder Opal and this one is just a bit softer. So the material on this one came off a lot quicker.
And we are back from the wheels. As you can see, this one, so the chip in the back is still slightly there, as you see the light rolling over it, but when I even out the back later on, that will be removed. But as you can see, the shape is now back to an oval without this big old dent coming out the side. It's a relatively clean gem, still pretty, so that is a success. Unfortunately with this one, so this one took a little bit more work. It's definitely become, I've managed to make it an oval again without having a dent out the side. The trouble is that cloud that I was talking about, that cotton wool effect, doesn't seem to be coming out, but you never know. With a high polish on it, it might, but I don't have high hopes. Sometimes with cotton wool, it's very common, it's not very common, but is common in Andamuka opal that the cotton wool effect runs through the whole opal. So it's unlikely it's going to come out at this stage, but again, if the odds are working in my favour, then hopefully this will clean up to show that whole green across the whole face. Now it's time to put them on dop sticks, and before you ask, yes, I'm in a new change of clothes because I filmed this video over 2 days.
So with the smallest of the 3 opals, I'm just reorientating the cabochon to show what was originally the underside of the opal, and reorientating to make that the top of the opal because I thought the colour was better there. So it's just a task of re-rolling the setting edge and, as I mentioned, changing the cabochon so it's now facing up instead of down. With the second largest one, the job is slightly different. Because I had to take off so much material on one side, I now have to even out the cabochon, or even out the dome, whatever you want to call it, to make sure it's even around the whole stone, so when it does go to be set in jewellery, the jeweller doesn't have a difficult task. It was a real pleasure cutting the larger of the 3 opals. It's not often that I get to work with an opal of this size, so it was quite fun to be able to make a new high dome on it and making it a perfect gem again. The trouble when working with smaller opals is the margin for error is greater. You have less material to play around with, so it's much easier to make a mistake. But with an opal this size, it's a lot easier to be able to round off the edges as well as have a nice setting edge on the side, because the opal and the colour bar is just so thick. I did have to go back to the 120 sintered wheel to be able to take off a little bit more material faster, before then going right back onto the 400 grit and beginning to take out all the scratches that are left behind. At this point, I'm just putting the final pre-polish on all 3 of the opals. You'll witness here, the smallest of all opals popped right off the dop stick, and it took me absolutely ages to find, but I did eventually find it, re-dop it, and then finish off the pre-polish. But I'm going to skip through this process quite quickly because it's simply just going on the 600, 1200 and 3000 grit wheels, repeating the same process as before and removing out all the scratches. Here I am using cerium oxide on a felt wheel to put the final high polish on all 3 of the opals. The aim of the game when putting your final polish on the opal is to get a mirror/glass effect. So as you can see there's a great reflection in the face of that opal, showing me the polish is done.
Now the polish has been added, they're still on the dop sticks because it's just easier to show them off whilst they're still on them. First of all, we'll go for the little red one. I did manage to find it in the end, and I mean, it's pretty cool. It's pretty good. Flash of green on the sides at certain angles, but face is red, top down, which is perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping for, and definitely the right decision to reorientate the stone from the other side to this side. The crystal, the semi-crystal. Unfortunately, that cloud in the face does not leave. It is going all the way through the stone. If you look at the side, you can see, if I point, there's two separate color bars in this opal. So if I went down any further, I'd start mixing the two, and then there'd be a big old line going through the face. So I just stick it as it is. It doesn't increase value at all by me recutting this, but luckily the chip has been removed. It's a shame because it's got really crystal color, as you can see. It's really pretty. Unfortunately, it's just completely overshadowed by that cotton wool effect that I was talking about earlier. Here, the larger of the three turned out great. Nice, even shape again. It's got color from all angles. So nice high dome as well, perfect, ready for a setting, whether it's claw or bezel set. It's gonna look awesome. What I should have done, what would have been a good idea, was weighed them all before recutting them. Unfortunately, I can't roll back time and do that, so I'll have to reweigh them in a second. But how awesome is this little shot of a little bouquet of color right here. Right, the opals are now off the dopsticks in their little individuals. As I just mentioned, it would have been good if I weighed them before versus now to see how much material is left or how much I was able to save, so on and so forth. But we cannot roll back time as much as I'd like to, because if that's the case, there's a lot of rough opal that I would not have bought. Time to weigh it, just to see what we've got. Okay, we'll start with the smallest of the three first, if I can grab it with my tweezers, and I can't, so I'm just going to smudge it. 0.325, not too bad. Not very heavy, but not too bad. Go for the middle. Little semi-crystal. 1.71, that's very good. And lastly, the larger of the three. Over 6 carats. 6.1 carats. That's really good. That is really good. That'll make a beautiful pendant, or even a massive cluster ring of some kind for anyone that's got big blingy taste. So, in all, as a whole, I think, if I remember correctly, I can double check my books, but I think I paid about 280 for the piece of jewellery, which is a bit of a gamble. There's no denying a bit of a gamble there, considering I didn't know if I could get the cloud out the face. Whoa! That's being careless. It's okay, by the way. Considering I didn't know if I could get the cotton wool effect out the face. I didn't know if the chip on the larger of the three was going to create problems running the whole way through the opal, and of course the small little last one, which is more or less the same as it started anyway. So a bit of a gamble, but as a whole, but in all, I'd say I've broken even. Let me know down below in the comments whether you think I've broken even, whether you think I've made money, or whether you think I'm a moron and I've lost money. So tell me what you think. Obviously, so far I've lost money. The proof is in the pudding because they're still in my hands and they haven't been sold. So you could argue the toss either way, but it's an experiment. I have to try new things, see how things work. By all accounts, it's kind of worked out if I obviously make money on it. There could be a bit more here. Maybe 280 is a bit of a low number, but more or less I'd say I've at least made my money back. I appreciate you guys very much for watching. Again, let me know if this whole lighting aspect works for you, considering it's not so dark on my face. Let me know any suggestions, any feedback you have down below in the comments. But please like the video so it's recommended to more people. Remember to subscribe to watch weekly Opal content, and don't forget to tune in weekly, I guess. I don't really know where I was going with that sentence. So we'll end it there. Thanks very much, guys, and I will catch you in a week's time.